Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes for other folks to join, and then we'll get started. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's 3 p.m., so it's not morning anymore, but good afternoon. Welcome to June's New American Task Force monthly webinar. We're excited to have you joining us today. We are waiting for more folks to join, but because of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. As always, this webinar will be recorded and we'll be sharing this webinar with New American Task Force members, and we'll also be posting this on our social media. Again, welcome to the June's New American Task Force webinar. Next slide, please. On today's agenda, we will be doing community announcements, and we're excited to share today's topic on some new findings that the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging has conducted to really understand the landscape of the environment that are facing a new American service providers in the state of Utah. We are in a period of transitioning, and we understand that things are changing rapidly and constantly. And it is really important for us to really understand what is happening on the ground. So we're excited to share the data of a survey that we have conducted a couple months ago, and we'll be also engaged in a dialogue with two service providers in the community to learn more from their perspective. We will then open it up to dialogues. We also want to hear from those of you who are joining us today to also understand from your perspective of what's happening, and we'll end with some closing remarks. Next slide. So we'll begin with community announcements. Today, I was able to attend the citizenship ceremony for World Refugee Day. For those of you who don't know, World Refugee Day is this Friday, June 20th. In addition to the citizenship ceremony this morning at the Capitol, there is also a day-long celebration happening this Friday at Big Cottonwood Regional Park. This is hosted by the Department of Workforce Services. It's a fun event if you haven't been to it, free for the family, lots of entertainment, international cuisine, as well as opportunity to purchase items. I also know that similar celebration might also be happening in other regions around the state, and encourage you to check your local communities and see if there are other celebrations happening. Next slide, please. Free exam for refugees is still happening, and please log on the flyer to find out about this great opportunity and be able to share it with the community. Next slide. We also mentioned this earlier. The International Rescue Committee is hosting a New American Dream Lab. This is happening Tuesday, July 22nd, an opportunity for New American entrepreneurs to pitch their business ideas and have an opportunity to win up to $4,000 to grow their business. We know that many New Americans are serial entrepreneurs, and this is really a way for them to enhance their ability to contribute back to Utah and build their business. Next is the Utah Citizenship Initiative. I know that our partner Emmy from Holy Cross Ministries is one of our panelists today, which is also a partner with the Utah Citizenship Initiative, as well as the Cash Immigrant and Refugee Center. So we have two great partners of this initiative who will be joining us today, but also let you know that online citizenship preparation classes has begun. I started this week, and it is a series that you can participate on and be able to prepare yourself to take the naturalization test. Please scan the QR code if you're interested in participating in those classes. The Department of Workforce Services and the Refugee Services Office is hosting job readiness workshops every Wednesday from 2 to 3:30. If you have any refugees who are interested in this workshop, please participate. Make sure that they are aware of this resources available to the community. Next slide, please. International Rescue Committee, for those of you do not know, they also they have a micro enterprise program and provides loans to New American businesses. And more information, please scan the QR code to learn more. As I mentioned, we're excited to share about the surveys that we have conducted a couple months ago on new American service providers in the state of Utah. And it is my pleasure of introducing our researcher on this project, Marin Christensen. If we could go to the next slide. Marin Christensen is the key researcher for this particular research that we conducted. She just received her PhD from the University of Utah in social policy. We have worked with her for many years and has been a great person and supporter of the new American population. And it is my pleasure now to turn it over to Marin Christensen to help us better understand the finding, the survey, and the scope of the survey that she was able to help us in conducting. So Marin, I'm going to pass the torch over to you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. Let's go to the next slide because it allows you to access the report, but we'll just be kind of showing you the slides of the report. But if you want it a little bit bigger, that's where you can access it. So, of course, in order to determine like next steps on how they can best be of service to service providers of new Americans, it was really important for the CEOB to understand how like the recent shifts in immigration policy and federal grants, the political environment, have been affecting our local providers of immigrants and refugees. So we heard back from 28 service providers, which was great during this really fraught time. It's a really great response. We think there's a little over like 40 organizations who mostly focus on new Americans and maybe like 80 who happen to serve new Americans as part of the broader community. But most of these respondents mainly serve new Americans. So that's a great response and they gave us some really critical information. That said, we need to be careful to assume like these numbers are generalizable just because their organization may be so different in regards to the services they provide and what that might mean for funding. But it gives us a really good understanding as to what's going on and how our new American community is being impacted. So the survey was in field from March 27th through May 2nd. So a little over a month ago and pretty recently. And the survey ultimately sought to hear about funding challenges and also challenges serving their new American communities. So first, respondents were asked how various streams of funding were impacted by the current climate and federal action, and also how much of that funding is depended upon in their overall budget. So we began the report with their reliance on the federal funding. So overall, 46%, which is 13 organizations, rely on some sort of federal funding. And so for over half of those organizations, over half of their budget is reliant on federal funding. These federal funding cuts mean that 34% have had over 25% of their budget impacted, and 19% have had over 75% of their funding impacted. And we wanted to include the services here on the report so you can see like how the lives of new Americans are being impacted here. These service providers provide basic needs services, English language learning, advocacy, resettlement services, service and program enrollment, and also workforce development programs. We've included quotes throughout from the service providers themselves because they offer really rich insight as to how their new American communities are faring right now. So like this one in particular explains how new Americans face multiple barriers. So the fact that they're experiencing a lot of fear right now on top of like navigating a new country while also going to work or school and taking care of their families. Next slide. So these are the next 2 pages. Another area of focus for a funding deep dive on the survey was private foundation funding. So 82% of the sample is reliant on private philanthropy, and the average is like 25% of their budget is reliant. But that can range from like 5% of their budget all the way up to 60% of the budget. So 40% of them have had their private foundation funding impacted. 23% have had over 50% of their private foundation funding impacted. And again, notice the services that these providers provide. And 15% of those relying on private foundation funding has had over 75% of that funding impacted. We then asked about additional funding questions. 89% of respondents have not received any new funding as a result of the recent federal policy or changes in the political environment. There may have been an assumption that like other funding streams would step in, for example, but for 89% of respondents, that hasn't been the case. Also, 46% are anticipating a decrease in funding in the next 3 months. So maybe those that haven't been affected in the ways that we already talked about are anticipating it soon, or those that have already been impacted that we talked about are anticipating even more funding challenges. So that just goes to show that like this will be very important to stay on top of. Another assumption we might have is the general public stepping in to donate to these organizations. But as of the survey being in field, like only 2 of them had seen an increase in individual donors at the time of the survey. And then COB wanted to understand if new American community members' access to services has been impacted due to the recent political environment. Respondents were able to choose all that apply here. So you can see like the vast majority have seen all of these scenarios play out, which is pretty concerning. So the question was, please indicate the barriers that have impacted your client's participation in the programs or services your agency provides. So 89% said that fearing the increase in anti-immigrant sentiment, like even if they have status, has impacted their clients' participation in services. 86% said that the fear that their government documentation will be used for enforcement impacts their participation in services. 82% said the fear that they themselves will be deported, or the same fear for their family member prevents them from getting services. And 82% said the fear of negative repercussions to their immigration status is also preventing their immigrant clients from seeking services. And again, we have some quotes here like describing how fear and panic have resulted in people scared to leave their homes, fear that they will be deported if they go to work and their children will be left alone. Next part of the survey, they wanted to determine if there has been an increase in the demand for various types of services. And this is especially pertinent as like some programs and staff have actually been cut. So 64% said they have seen an increase in demand for legal services. 61% said they've seen an increase in demand for housing assistance. It's 54% for basic needs, 50% for workforce development, and 46% have seen an increase in demand for healthcare and childcare services. Lastly, here we wanted to determine whether agencies have had to change their service delivery models or programming and messaging due to recent policy and political changes. So 46% have had to change their delivery model, and this includes like incorporating additional security measures, increasing one-on-one outreach, probably for those that are scared to leave their homes, right? They've increased personal food delivery for those, likely for those same people. They've increased training, and some people said they've had to completely eliminate services. 75%, so a vast majority, said they've had to change programming and messaging. So this includes explaining any policy changes, explaining their rights, like moving to safer messaging platforms, and also eliminating programs because they've also had to let go of employees. Next slide. So lastly, here is who these agencies serve. So many reach our most populated counties in Utah, and some reach all of Utah, right? The majority serve green card holders, mixed status families, refugees, asylum seekers, the undocumented, those with temporary protected status, and DACA recipients. And they serve immigrants and refugees of all ages with basic needs services, advocacy, English language learning, service enrollment assistance, workforce development, health education, legal services, like they do it all. So these organizations trying to paint a picture are just crucial to keeping these communities afloat and safe. So we hope this information is impactful in regards like how to move forward. If you have any questions about these findings, Z's contact information is on the end of the report to where I can be looped in and help with any questions here.
Thank you so much, Marin, for providing us that really great overview. As we alluded to earlier, we really want to have a better understanding of the impacts of the recent changes in various policies, especially from the federal level. And so this survey is really meant to provide some baseline understanding of those impacts in regards to funding as well as services. I want to see if there's anyone on the call today that might have some questions for Marin before we jump off to the next segment of today's webinar. Feel free to unmute or put your questions on the question and answer panel. If not, I don't know if the chat is enabled, but if not, think about it, and then maybe we can come back to it as well. Thank you so much again, Marin. This report is now available on our website, belonginutah.org. We will also send this out to the New American Task Force so that we can have the data to be able to help and inform how we move forward as a community. Thank you. We'll move on to a conversation and discussions. Now that we have heard the data on what we have found through the survey, we are pleased to invite two service providers to join us in a conversation to really learn firsthand from their experience on what they're experiencing in providing services to the New American population. Joining me is Emmy Gardner. Emmy is the CEO of Holy Cross Ministries, a great partner to the New American Task Force, and is also work with us on the Utah Citizenship Initiative. Thank you so much, Emmy, for joining us. We also have Dan Johnson. Dan is the interim executive director of the Cash, Refugee, and Immigrant Connections. They provide services on the northern part of the state and is also a great partner with the New American Task Force as well as the Utah Citizenship Initiative. So we'll get a perspective from two different geographies throughout the state, from two different geographies in the state of Utah. So welcome, Dan, and thank you so much for joining us today. Are you able to unmute? And yes, thank you so much. So to just get started, I would love to just hear from both of you and from your perspective of the services that you provide to the New American population. And what are you seeing as some of the changes since the beginning of the year? And then since Dan is already unmuted, I'll go with that first.
Okay, just a brief introduction. I will tell you that I really enjoyed seeing that information that's in that survey, and I look forward to having an opportunity to look it over. I will tell you that for us, one of the things that we are doing, it's been a while since a community needs assessment has been done. And so that will include our New American population, as well as the other thousands of individuals that make up the refugee and immigrant population across Cache County. So you may know that Logan became a resettlement city. Crick decided to do that. This organization was founded in 2011, and it became a resettlement or a 501(c)(3) 2014, and then about 3 years ago became a resettlement agency. And so there are a lot of new Americans here. Up into January, they were receiving lots of people directly through Church World Services. That's we're an affiliates of that organization. So that's our national resettlement organization that we work with to get help and ideas and support. So we do have a lot of folks. Crick is sort of a place that was built a little bit on the run over the last 3 to 4 years because there was so much going on. And I think that happened in Salt Lake and also in other resettlement cities across the country. That being shut down, we have impacts of families that were going to be joined. People had all their documentation done, had a plane ticket, and never got to come. And so the way in which that was done, it's created some sadness, I think, on the part of people, and a lot of anxiety. Also for some of our new population that has come in to Cache County, there's and I think across the country, there's a bit of fear that people have with deportation worries and things like that. And here in Logan, we're not immune, from some of those things with people that have lived here for a while and those that have just recently arrived. So we, like every other nonprofit, have been affected financially. We pride ourselves in the main thing we do is give one-to-one, face-to-face services to individuals. And so, we've had to cut back on numbers and a few of those things, but through restructuring and reorganizing what we do and how we do it, we've been able to weather the storm, and we have I think a rather bold way of moving forward that I can describe a little later if you'd like me to. But that's kind of the setting. I don't think we're much different than any other resettlement community in terms of the fact things stopped, money was taken away, families were hurt by it. There's a bit of fear out there, and also, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. The conflation of some of the immigrant issues on the southern border with people who are here legally, and so we have a big education work to do. We are always doing that to make sure that people understand who these folks are and what their needs are and how others and individuals in the community can reach out and help them. So with that background, I'll wait for a few more questions.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much for providing the overview and sharing what you're seeing in Cache Valley. I'll turn it over to Emmy. Emmy, if you tell us a little bit more about your organization and what you're seeing since January.
Yeah, no, Dan, it was wonderful to hear what's happening up north, and I know we've partnered with you all on the Utah Citizenship Initiative, and
Yeah.
so Holy Cross Ministries, while we're based in Salt Lake, we have a presence as far north as Logan. We go into the Wasatch Back, Summit and Wasatch counties. Technically, given kind of telehealth and technology, we can have a statewide presence. And so we have three main pillars: health, education, and justice. And we really, where Dan really spoke so eloquently to, the changes, given the changes with the refugee population, I would say that as our organization, as a nonprofit, we've been 30 years in the community. We were founded by a congregation of Catholic sisters who used to do a lot in education and healthcare. And in the mid-90s, when they couldn't compete with the big health systems like Intermountain and the university health systems in their integrated systems, they chose to sell their hospitals and use the money from the sale of the hospital to found this social service agency. They did a listening tour, the original needs assessment, I guess, back in the early 90s, and really resonated with the immigrant community. And again, in that idea, as our tagline says, that tradition of caring for our community's future, really to what Dan was speaking of, really trying to help and empower the immigrant community that was already here and the new Americans that were arriving. And so that's why justice, education, and health. We provide navigation for the complexities in healthcare and access to healthcare. We have community health workers that are bilingual and bicultural. We also provide trauma-informed mental health therapy, again, in Spanish, for the bulk of Spanish-speaking immigrant populations across the full Hispanic diaspora. And then, as I said, we have early childhood education, really working with English language learners, primarily up in the Summit and Wasatch Back. So the workforce for the tourism up there, we have a Parents as Teachers program, which helps pregnant moms through 3, and then those families graduate to our school readiness class, where they are in a classroom setting 3 and 4, to then get them ready to be on par with their English-speaking peers by the time they start kindergarten. And then, as I said, a little atypical for a social service agency, but we have a large legal department. We have 2 attorneys, 5 DOJ accredited reps who function as attorneys in the immigration court. So again, when you think about it, the sisters created an organization that provided the wraparound services that their community needed. So fast forward to now, everything in the survey, so true, and yet pivoting and changing, right? And so, we've been doing our best per the feedback from our board, to kind of be good fiscal stewards. I mean, we're managing by adjustment, by attrition, so to speak. We haven't had to lay off anyone yet, right? And we hope not to. But again, I think as Dan so well put it, I think with all of the changing and as well, with the things changing at the federal level, we really are, I would say, first and foremost, in addition to our day-to-day work, which has just exploded, are really here to just try and clarify information, answer questions, help families navigate, truly to again, companion people on their journey, whatever that means for them, right? So it really is about empowering them with knowledge and information so that they can make the best choice for their family and their situation. And I say that because it changes as we know, hourly, multiple times a day. I mean, we had been working on a grant and a proposal with Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to truly support the new American community, right? And we were awarded that, but that was last year before the election. And all of what we had planned to do in that was really taking that refugee resettlement model to truly help with the new arrival immigrants, primarily the folks coming from Venezuela, from Colombia, the TPS. And now we know that, all of that has been just denied. And so so we're having to pivot and respond. Okay, well, how do we still help folks navigate and discern what are their choices and what are their possibilities and what can they do? And we know here in Utah, I mean, while we are a faith-sponsored, entity, I mean, I think the Christian face of the Sisters of the Holy Cross and Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints go back 150 years, and we really just wanted to help and support our local Utah community, right? And really help people thrive, right? Regardless of their race or ethnicity, right? And so we still are trying to do that within the limited scope of possibilities that we've been left with, given kind of the continued changes within the immigration policies that are happening in the current administration. So a lot of work with helping folks access and navigate healthcare, because again, like you said, there's fear there. Really encouraging people, especially if they have healthcare needs, to continue to access their healthcare, not to be fearful of going to a clinic or to a hospital, really trying to help people understand that Utah, we are a welcoming state. We're not a sanctuary state, we're a welcoming state. And we believe in the diversity of our humanity, and that we're really trying to, as much as we can, asset frame our friends and families and neighbors, right? As hardworking contributors to our Utah economy, right? And what we need, both in tourism and in construction and in, hospitality. I mean, it is our immigrant and refugee populations that are really helping to drive that. So, yeah, I mean, our story, our advocacy is just like on steroids right now, right? And our day-to-day service delivery within each one of the pillars is just insane, but we have incredibly passionate, dedicated individuals who just really want to help our community so that they can make the best decision in their family circumstance for what they need to do next.
Yeah. Well, Emmy and Dan, thank you so much for all you do. I mean, in this time of lots of transitioning, I think communities all have so many questions and concerns, and we alluded to earlier, there's just so much fear, and having an agency in the community that they can trust and still go to for services is so important. At the end of the day, really is that relationship that you have with someone that would carry us through challenging times. So thank you so much for all you do in our community and your staff as well. I want to dig a little bit deeper into the survey and specifically in the area of funding. I know that as Kirk as a resettlement agency, your funding has been reduced, if not eliminated, because of the attachment to the resettlement of refugees. And I know that, Emmy, you have some federal contracts as well that has been cut. But you're still providing services. And also what we're finding from the survey is that not just federal funding that is being reduced, we're also seeing private funding being reduced. And one thing that was even striking to me a little bit is that you haven't seen an uptick in individual donations, and that might not. I don't know if that is just maybe people are not aware that they could donate to it, or how dire the challenges may be, especially for service providers serving immigrants. So I just want to ask both of you to maybe share a little bit about the funding scenario within your organizations. What are you doing to pivot in terms of diversifying further your fundings? How are you engaging the community to support the work you do? And I'll start with Emmy.
Thanks, Z. Yeah, it is a really challenging time. And we do about 18% of our budget is passed through federal dollars, right? And as of last week, we were notified that the funding would continue at close to a 20% decrease. So that was good news, but we're still waiting for the final contracts. And why I say that is that as I was talking with other nonprofit providers in the community who also, we do a lot of work with survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking. So our federal funding is VOCA, Victims of Crime Act money, or VAWA, Violence Against Women Act funding, right? And so what we're hearing from other partners, many in the shelter space or other support space, is that there have been addendums written to contracts that we have yet to see because we haven't signed the final contract. So in one of the NOFOs, the Notice of Federal Opportunity, what we saw recently was 13 bullets delineating how the funding was to be used or not used. And again, all of it is, I think, aligning with the current administration's values, right? And so there were clear delineations in this addendum, and that's why we're waiting to see our final contract that clearly say it won't be used for DEI, it won't be used for LGBTQIA, it won't be used to support the immigrant community. We have not seen our final contract. So while we know that there's continued funding, we're waiting for that final contract to determine will we in fact have funding or not. And then to your point about donors, yes, I've been having these conversations with my development director because we know as nonprofits, we try to get a chunk of funding in federal or state dollars and then make up the rest in philanthropy. And I don't know if it's been just with the current kind of just tenuousness of the economic situation, not only in the state, but nationally, the threat of a recession, but we are seeing a decrease in just general contributions. And again, I don't know if that is people like seeing what's happening, with their 401ks or 403bs, their retirement piece. I mean, can they not, or what's happening there just with the volatility of the market. We're working hard to again, tell that story of why we need the community's help and support, because while we haven't, like I said, had a massive cut in our funding, we're anticipating that will happen. And so how do we sustain the work that we believe is needed now more than ever, given the changing and the confusion within the laws and practices that impact our refugee and immigrant communities, our new arrivals, right? So we really do want to be here, 6 months, a year, 10, 30 years from now, as we're celebrating our 30th anniversary, right? Because we really do believe in uplifting our new arrival community and helping them. So don't have any magic wand ideas about how, other than kind of that ongoing education and outreach to the community. But yeah, just I think many times I'll hear my development director say, people ask like, what can I do? How can I be an ally? How can I support the refugee and immigrant community? And bottom line is help us in funding, help sustain our work, right? That's really the need that we have.
Thank you, Emmy. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. I'm gonna pass it to Dan. And Dan, the same question. How are you pivoting in terms of your funding? Dan, you're muted.
I really always enjoy hearing Emmy. She's a great leader, and she knows the story here pretty well. That's for darn sure. But we are like other nonprofits, and the fact that we had federal funding. We ended up with about 25% of our funding being clawed back. We've been fortunate in the sense that some people were kind of moving on in their career, going back for education, going to grad school, a few things like that. So we had a few positions where we were able to reassign responsibilities and then streamline things and not rehire positions. And so we have had different pieces of that happen. We've managed it very well, I believe. And so far we haven't called somebody in the office and say, well, you know what, you don't have a job tomorrow. We found a way to keep people and to get some immediate local funding. And so that is what we've had to pivot and do, very much like Emmy was talking about. So we're like the other nonprofits in town. We have a great working relationship with them. We get together often. We stay in our own lane. And that's really important because as we go out to the community, as a matter of fact, I'm on the board for the family centers. I'm on the board for Little Lambs Foundation. I'm on the board for CAPSA for domestic violence, and I've been now named the permanent executive director of CRIC. So there are 4 organizations right there that are doing an awful lot for our clients. And so we have made sure that, again, we stay in our lane and that we spend our time and effort on what we are good at. And if we can't provide that service, I've trained staff, you be very, very good at knowing where the places are that we can make referrals. And one of them, of course, is like the English Language Center, another nonprofit that we work with, and that we hold some of our citizenship classes actually in their building, and so we work closely with Emmy, on that, and it's been a great thing. So services such as financial literacy class. This coming Monday night, we'll have another graduation. Every one of those people go through they go through that course. We've had 9 and 10-year-old kids take it. We've had people from Salt Lake who took it online and come up and get their certificate, and I hand it to them and also give them a computer or a new iPad that we get donated from Comcast. And so, we just continue to do that, reach out to organizations that help us make those experiences special for individuals that we serve. So we're continuing to, as we realize that what we do is mainly is one-to-one with people. And so we have a portion of our work is called walk-in hours. And so we have case managers and other well-trained people, some that speak several foreign languages. People come in, walk-in hours from 3 to 6, Monday through Thursday, and they can get help on anything they need help on, whether it's, rent or how do I do this or how do I do that. If we don't provide that service, then I want to make sure that we are making referrals to the organizations or agencies in the community that will help those individuals. I don't want people to walk away from CRIC and they say, well, I went there, but they never helped me. And so we don't do anything with false hope. We don't say, we're not lawyers, so we don't get law things. We have people that we'll refer to if it's a legal question. We stay in our lane. We do what we can do. We do it very well. So then when I go out to the community, that's what I explain to funders. And it's really working because we're just like all the other nonprofits. Well, you can't rely upon the federal government for this. So what are we going to do? Lean into the community. And that is what everyone is doing. And we're doing it in a friendly way with one another. We're not going out there and bashing one organization, hoping that if we run them down, then we get some money. That's absolutely the worst thing you can do. And so we're not operating like that. So I think our integrity and our personal decorum matter, and that's how we're going to operate. And so with this budget, matter of fact, next Tuesday we'll approve next year's budget, and our finance person, I think, has worked it out very well. I front loaded everything. So, I have a person that does program development and evaluation of it and grant writing. Another person that does fundraising, goes after those formal asks that we make of people individually. We've taken our strategic plan, we put it into project management software. We use Salesforce and identify things. We're doing a better job of tracking who helps us, how they help us, and being thankful for it and building relationships. So that effort, I think, will prove to be beneficial over time. So we're wanting to make those long-term relationships with donors and with agencies and with our nonprofit neighbors. So that's what we've been
Yeah.
doing.
Well, yes, thank you so much for also sharing your experience there. And I'll just conclude, and you guys both alluded to this already. I know that we share already, we're in a period of just transitioning.
Yeah.
And it could be is oftentimes you see it as this challenge, and especially when you see fundings being rescinded or people fearful of coming to and getting services. But it also could be an opportunity, and Dan already alluded to earlier that Utah is uniquely placed in a position where we can continue to collaborate, continue to innovate, and continue to build ways to better serve a community, especially during times of transitioning. So with that being said, I would love to hear from both of you in terms of, what you see as an opportunity, given, the scarcity in resources that we're seeing right now, given that there are challenges. How can communities better, how could service providers better collaborate? How can the public sector be able to support you? And then I think you could probably speak to that, being a former member of the state legislature. I think that the public-private and philanthropic partnerships are so important, especially in times of transition, because this is where we build our muscles and strengths to carry us on into the future. So I would love to hear from you from a positive note. What are you seeing as opportunities? How can we better collaborate in manners that we haven't collaborated before? How do we build those public and private partnerships to really strengthen ways that we support everyone in the community, especially the new Americans, newcomers in the state? I'll start with you, Dan.
Okay, I think I think it's just recognizing just what you said, that you do have to pivot and that things are different. And so if you're going to exist, you need to figure out, as a nonprofit, how you can do that. And I think that 3P concept is really powerful. We can get support on certain efforts from the legislature or from government, but we can't expect that government is going to foot the bill. Because this is what I've always noticed, and it's what I say to people, and it sort of draws them up short a little bit. Where do you think people would go if none of these nonprofits existed? Honestly, that's kind of stunning. When you think about the services that are provided, one, government can't do it, they shouldn't do it, and they'd mess it up if they did. So, we are a lot better off having people like Emmy, who knows who she is, what their organization is, what the services are that they provide, and get some sort of support. I heard her say 20% or so, but then there's all the rest of it. Where does that 80% come from? And so that's what we can take out there to funders, is who we are, what we stand for, and be able to articulate what the need is. I think the most important way of being able to describe need is to be able to tell a story. What's happened to people? Why are they here? And would you be interested in helping them? So those kinds of things can be compelling for people. And if you are a nonprofit that does certain work, there are people in the community that really identify with New Americans. There are people who identify with the aerospace industry. It just goes all over the place. different things are of interest to different people. I think one of the most important things we can do to try to help the new American population is to discover in our communities who are the people or organizations that are most interested in them and their well-being. Once you find that out, those are the relationships that you can nurture. I'll give you an example of that. Day before yesterday, I met with the administrator of our local hospital and Intermountain Health, and talked to them about what this was, and walked away from that meeting with 4 different things that we could do. Only one of them had to do with money. But the others had to do with, like what Emmy was talking about earlier, is resources of health, and being able then to find out all the different things that could be provided there, and the services that they continue to provide in Intermountain Health is actually free. Another thing would be like our people that work in health in our organization, being willing for their people to come over and train on things, or we're sending people to them. It's a really great relationship. But now I'm just giving you one example of that, but you need to do that over and over and over. So for example, when we use the another thing that we're doing now, when we use Salesforce, we need to make sure that when we have somebody that gives to us, whether it's $5 or $5,000, we need to have very accurate contact information on those people. And we need to be able to reach out to them in a very systematic way over time. And we need to have those tickler files that remind us to do it. So we're building those kinds of things into our software so that we don't forget people. When we on our leadership team and managers and all of that, why are they doing what they're doing? So that our other staff can give direct services to people. And we have got, the most important thing with that is we have to keep that in mind. What's a fundraising for? Well, it is for quite a few different things, but the most important one is delivery of service. So I think one of the things that I really emphasize with our team is that we're doing fundraising with that goal in mind.
Thank you, Dan. I'm going to pass it to Amy. Emmy.
Dan, you said it so well. You just said it so well. And I just wanted to amplify a couple of things that you said, because I know we're close on time, but it was just that idea of collaboration. You're absolutely right. It's not only this idea that we need to pivot and respond, but I think we're getting creative as nonprofits. And I think one of the things we have as an organization always been is ridiculously collaborative. And I mean that in a good way, right? So we deploy our community health workers to the community health centers. We put our mental health therapists in various clinics. So it's again that idea of how do we get creative, and how do we now start to kind of almost collaborate around fundraising, which sometimes, again, to your point, we don't want to be competitive with our sister nonprofits. We want to be collaborative and approaching funders together to say, hey, if you can, this is the project we want to do, and it's going to take us doing this piece and this organization doing this piece and this organization doing this piece, and look at how we can then support our new arrival community, right? So I think that's one of the newer creative things that we're trying at Holy Cross, is doing some collaborative grant asks with other partner organizations, right? Which I know will get our finance people a little scared about how we're going to then manage who's the prime, who's the subawardee, all that stuff, but I think we can work that out. The other thing that I wanted to mention that I'd forgotten before, and I think again to that idea of uplifting and amplifying our new American community, is really trying to work very closely with the Department of Commerce and the Division of Professional Licensing. And we as an organization have done that, especially as they're looking at foreign credentialed professionals, right? So that we can get folks that are here, our new arrival community has a wealth of knowledge. in healthcare, in law, in in education, and how we can then really help them get better aligned to the profession they are trained in, right? And then working with DOPL so that one, we're allowing them to get into that field, but two, that from DOPL's responsibility to the community, that we're credentialing people at a level so that they know that they're getting safe and quality care. And so I think that's another really been fun strategic partnership that we've been doing over the last year. And again, amplifying that amazing contribution that our new arrival community can offer us here in Utah.
Well, thank you so much, both. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Emmy, for all you do and for participating in today's webinar and sharing with us, your firsthand experiences and, your leadership and guiding us through this times of transitioning. Where our community is so lucky to have you with us. And to your point, Emmy, in terms of credentialing, I just wanted to put a plug in. We didn't have time to put this on our current events, our community events, but the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, the Center for Global Talent, and the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging is partnering with the Utah Division of Professional Licensing and Intermountain Health in hosting information webinar on a new nursing pathways program. So this is a new pathways to help internationally trained nurses to get back into the field and in supporting Utahns with their healthcare. We're doing that in the end of the month. So Monday, June 30th at Intermountain Health. Bailey has just dropped that flyer on the chat. We would love to have you shared that with your communities. I know there's a lot of interest of people, internationally trained individuals who want to think about going into the healthcare sector, especially those with experiences. So please pass that along.
Yeah, and as a person who worked at Primary Children's for 27 years, I can tell you the nursing shortage is not a joke. It still continues, and so to have that richness of training, it would be just absolutely wonderful. So we pass that out on our social media already.
Yeah, make sure you pass it away. We want to thank our partner at the Division of Professional Licensing. They've been working really hard to really think about how to open up some of those pathways programs for internationally trained professionals. And this is the latest pathways that they will be sharing with the community. Super excited about that. I want to see if there is any other discussions. We do have a smaller group in today's webinar, but we will be sharing this. It's recorded and we'll be sharing this widely to the community. So we really want to make sure that we're hearing your comments, Dan and Emmy. But if there is anyone on the who are participating live today that has a question, please feel free to drop it on the chat or on the question and answer session. I'll just unmute. I don't see if Bailey or Camille, does people have the ability to unmute? And I don't see any hands raised. So we'll give it a couple more minutes to see. But Dan, do you have a question? It looks like you have a thought.
More of a comment. I really have appreciated the stance that Governor Cox has taken. I've had the opportunity to meet with him with a group, and then also a private conversation with him just around the refugee and immigrant issues. And I want to thank you, in the center for all that you do, for pulling these kinds of things together, for leading these discussions and giving everyone hope that there is a way forward. And there's a lot of people who care about this. And in spite of problems that are out there, folks like you and Emmy are helping pave that way, create that pathway for people to navigate really, really hard parts of their life right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. This is This is a collective effort, and we are just happy to be in a state that really does come together and support everyone, regardless of faith or how they came to a community. When they're here, they are definitely a part of a family, and we want to make sure that we do what we can to support them, even during times of challenge. And even during times of challenge, there are still things that we can do, like this International Pathways program
Yeah.
for foreign trained professionals. So we'll continue to keep up the good work and to keep up and make sure that we elevate those voices. At the end of the day, they are our friends and family and brothers and sisters and neighbors and colleagues, and just part of our society and part of us of who we are as Utahns. So with that, I think we'll conclude today's webinar. Again, I want to thank Dan and Emmy, and as well as Marin Christensen, who's able to join us today. Again, the new research will be published on our website. The New American Task Force is a collaboration between the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity and the Center for Global Talent and the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging. We are taking July off and will be reconvening again in August. I wish everyone have a great summer, and thank you so much for participating today.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you
you.
so much. Bye.